Hey guys, this is Warren from the Rhapsody Piano Studio. Welcome to today's live stream. Today I'm going to be covering the topic of how to find a good piano teacher, and this is actually a retake because I ended up deleting on accident because I'm so smart the last video on how to find a piano teacher. So this is going to be my second take. Sound check real quick. Take. Cool. Anyways, I'm gonna do a better job this time around. So my updated version on how to find a good piano teacher. So what I'm gonna say is that it's actually not hard to find a piano teacher, and I don't think it's actually you're going to be able to find a good piano teacher. I think what's going to happen is you're going to find a piano teacher and you're going to be able to tell they're good after you start working with them. So I am going to give you some tips, some suggestions on how to find a piano teacher and some things you can do to find some information about making an educated decision. But ultimately, what it comes down to is actually working with the piano teacher, taking lessons from him or her, and then I'll give you some useful things to use to make sure that you're getting what you want from that piano teacher. All right, now I'll tell you first where not to go to get piano lessons, and there's two places that you want to avoid. And of course, this is my opinion. This is also like my personal experience as well, so take that for what you will. Music schools and group lessons are usually a bad idea. The reason why music schools are a bad idea is you want to think of it as like a corporation versus a small business, like a franchised restaurant versus a small mom and pop's restaurant. You're not going to get a lot of individual attention. They tend to just look at you like dollar bills. I could be wrong. I'm sure there are really good music schools out there. But even the really good music schools out there, the ones that provide, good service, maybe they develop a good connection with you, they don't really tend to have like good teachers. And the reason why, first of all, it's really hard to find a good piano teacher, and most good piano teachers do not want to work in music schools because the pay is not that good. And if you're a piano teacher and you're really good, you can just work for yourself. You can be your own boss. So why would you want to work for another person, right? So I'll tell you my own experience with working with several music schools in the past, and some of them weren't just small music schools. Some of them had like really big names. I'm not going to tell you because I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but names don't really mean a thing. And all the music schools I ever worked at, all they look for is a college diploma, college degree. And usually the interview process was super easy for me to pass. The standards weren't really that high. In fact, some of them didn't even watch me play. They didn't even ask me to play anything for them so they can kind of see if I can actually play piano. It's kind of interesting. And some of the people who actually wanted to see me play piano were the owners of the music school who didn't even play piano. So that's what they're going on when they're hiring piano teachers. Kind of disturbed me a little bit. I should have quit sooner, but whatever. The other thing too is that never once in my entire life working with any of the music schools did anyone ever observe me teach. They had no idea if I was a good teacher or not. It's kind of crazy. Nor did I go through any type of teaching program whatsoever. They just hired me. They said, look, just do whatever you want. Not a really good idea in my opinion. And also, it's not good for you as well because you might get paired up with a teacher that you don't know anything about their background. You might be their very first student they've ever taught. Maybe they're not even good teachers. You have no idea. You might get someone really good. You might get someone who's really bad. There's really no interview process. You don't get to talk to the teacher before you actually get signed up with them. You just get matched up with them no matter what, like without any type of due diligence whatsoever. Then usually it's just out of convenience, whatever fits your schedule, okay? I'll give you one example from one of my students that was a transfer into my studio. And most transfer students I get usually are from group lessons or music schools. And this experience she had kind of made me upset. Like her own experience with some music schools, where the reason why they switched to me was the mom was telling me her story. First month, she finds a piano teacher. She actually really liked this piano teacher. Then after a month, the piano teacher just quit without any reason, any any warning whatsoever. So she just got transferred into another teacher, without any explanation at all. So it's like, why do I have another teacher? I don't know. Just here you go, right? After the second month, that teacher then quit. So she went with another piano teacher. So in the span of 3 months, she had to go through 3 different teachers. So that kind of gives you a little bit of behind the scenes of how typical music schools work. Now, with group lessons, the reason why you want to avoid group lessons, maybe you don't want to avoid group lessons, because I would think of group lessons only as a last-ditch effort. Just if you're really desperate, and if you don't really have that much money, okay, to pay for, like a piano teacher, because group lessons are super cheap, super affordable for a reason. So I'm not saying not to do it, but that should be the only reason you kind of do something like that. You're not going to get a lot of individual attention. That's pretty obvious, because depending on how big the class is, and you're going to fit into 1 of 3 different spots as a typical group lessons student with piano. You're either going to be behind, which means you're just going to be struggling and catching up every week that you're in the class. You're going to be ahead of everybody, which means you're going to be super bored out of your mind and you're not going to be challenged enough. Or you're going to be perfectly right in the middle. And if that works out for you that way, good for you. But usually it's not a one-size-fits-all model. And I don't think you want to get lucky when you're thinking of something like music education. All right? And actually this is something I really believed before, and also having taught group lessons as well. I actually had an adult student that came in through me before she was doing some group lessons, and she transferred over to me. She had the same exact experience I was talking about. All right, now I'll say private teachers are a safer bet, because if we think of the whole corporation example, we think of a corporation versus a small business, a franchise restaurant versus a small mom and pop restaurant. You're typically going to get a lot more individual attention, and you'll have a one-on-one relationship directly with the service provider and the owner. So it's also the business operator, like everything. Usually piano teachers, private piano teachers, if they run their own piano studios, we wear all the hats, all right? Yeah, so that's why they're a safer bet. Plus, if they're running their own, if you think of it as a business, they've been around for a while, and if they have a lot of students, then usually that looks like they know what they're doing. Ways that you can find piano teachers are through Yelp. And Yelp is just one of the most convenient ones, because it's going to be the first one out of almost everything, nearly everything that you ever search for on the internet. It's the first one that pops up usually. I don't know how accurate the reviews are, so I'm not going to really say anything about that. You can find them through social media, Facebook, Instagram. I've gotten students through all these methods, like through Facebook, through Instagram, and also a website. Okay. They also have things called, teacher organizations. Like here in California, we have the big one, which is called MTAC, Music Teachers Association of California. So if you Google MTAC, they'll have a referral list. I don't really know what you can do with that, though. It's just a list of people who are certified by this organization. And by certified, it just means that they're in the organization. So again, you're not going to be able to tell if they're a good teacher or not. And I would say, in my opinion, the safest way to go about it is a referral, right? So if you know someone who is taking piano lessons, who is really good, or just they pretty much have the results that you want, ask them for a referral, the teacher, right? That to me, that's a better route to go, safer route, because you can get direct information from that person, your friend, whoever it is who's taking piano lessons. And typically, I like referrals too. If they come from like a really good student of mine, people will hang out with like-minded people. So if I get a referral, that kind of gives me a good impression anyway. Now the cons of this is that the reason why you can't find a good piano teacher is that I actually Googled around my area. I just like to do it for fun, for research purposes, whatever. There's a lot of piano teachers that don't even have a website, or it's just a listing on the internet. They don't even have a Yelp. They don't, or they'll have like a combination. They'll have one, right? But a lot of them, zero, not even a single website. It's kind of mind-boggling this day and age, right? Maybe you live in a bigger town, so you don't have that problem. But here, it's geez, not only that, if they do have a Facebook or whatever social media website set up, they look terrible. So it creates a really bad first impression, in my opinion. So that's one thing. Just because they're really good at teaching, you might not even be able to find them. All right. So that's one thing, right? Advice. So those are the cons, right? And also, they have everything set up just because they have like a face. We're connecting. 1 second, Facebook. All right, here we go. My internet is so wonderful. All right, now I'll say, let's go. What was I talking about? How to get into, how to tell if you have a good piano teacher. Now, one thing, don't go because first impression in the way that they do, because tax season, right? So I was actually with my wife the other day. We went to a tax accountant, right? And my first impression of her was not good at all. I saw her, she kind of seems kind of sloppy. The way she's talking is, I don't know, she seems below subpar intelligence or whatever, right? So that was my impression. And actually, after we did the whole, we did our deductions and all that with her, she was really detailed and really good at her job. So again, that was my first impression, was just the complete opposite. So that's why not to judge your first impressions, because there's a lot of people who don't interview well, right? If you meet them for the first time, maybe they're not so good at conversations either, right? So that's the whole first impression thing. Don't go with it. Now, how do you protect yourself against doing this? Against judging a book by its cover? I would say it's really not worth the effort unless you want to. And people who can kind of protect themselves against what we call in psychology, they call it cognitive biases. People who are just naturally defended against that it doesn't bother them at all, or they're not just aware of it. They call those people sociopaths. So I'm sure you're not one of those. I hope you're not one of those. So it's really not worth it in my opinion. So what you want to do is, here are my following tips, right? So however you meet them, whatever impression you have on them, is not really going to be enough evidence to go by. So I would say first look at their roster, right? Their students, do they have pictures available or whatever? Can you meet their students or anything like that, right? Can you contact their students? Because if you can find out what the students are like, what their experiences are like with the teacher. And, to date, I've never had any prospective students ever ask me, can you give me some referrals to some of your students? Can I talk to some of them? They've never asked me once, but I wouldn't take it personal. In fact, I would like that. They're like doing their homework, you know what I mean? So if you can, I would suggest asking the teacher if you can contact their students, within reason, be respectable. But to me, that would be a really good strategy to have in mind. Does the teacher have any recital clips available that you can watch? Can you look at their videos? Can you see how the students performed? Are they good at playing piano? And also, if you are able to, talk to a lot of their students, make sure you get a wide sample, big sample. Because if you only picked 2 or 3, or if you only ask for 2 or 3 referrals, I would do this too. It's like, if a student is asking me, a prospective student is asking me for like 2 or 3 referrals, I'm just going to give them the most talented ones, the ones that play the best. So might not paint a whole realistic picture. Okay. I'm not saying my piano students are bad, but just truthfully speaking, some play better than the others. Anyway. Okay. Now, other things that might not matter is experience, because just because we tend to think someone's older that they're good at what they do, might not be true. You can find someone who's younger, who's really hungry, who's improving, and who's really passionate about their job, right? Price is really kind of something that you can overlook as well, because there's a lot of talented people out there who don't charge their worth. There's a lot of untalented people who are not good at what they do. They definitely don't deserve the price that they're charging, who overcharge, right? So my whole story is to be skeptical. My whole advice to you, the whole entire process, don't be cynical, but be skeptical. Really question every step. All right. Because with I'll give you another story. Like when we kind of fall for these things called the expert fallacy, right? So the expert trap. When we meet a person who's an expert in their field, we sort of become just passive, and we just believe that they're really good at what they do. So, I found myself falling into this trap when, we met our veterinarian for the first time, the clinic that we're at. I was like, I just automatically assume she must be good at her job because they're veterinarians, right? And then the way I got around that is I asked as many questions. I peppered her almost kind of relentlessly. So I'm sorry about that, but I would just ask millions of questions every single time to get as much information as possible. Because I was like, I like her. She's really cool. She's really nice. She treats the dogs really well. But I need to find out facts. So the way to do that is I just asked a million questions. And what I figured out was that slowly started to uncover. I didn't really think that she was that effective at it. And I ended up switching to another veterinarian, right? So don't fall into this trap. Have lots of questions. And, again, ultimately at the end, you're not going to know until you start working with them. Another trap to be aware of is the investment trap. When you start working with a piano teacher, when you start having piano lessons, make sure you set a specific deadline. For me, I actually have like a trial month because I don't want to commit until we actually start working together to see what they're like. So in your mind too, if they don't have a trial month, ask for a trial period, right? Ask them if, I'll say anywhere from 3 to 6 months, maybe 1 or 2. I don't know. I have my students have to sign a policy and all that, so that might not work for you. But for you, if you're doing this, make sure you set a deadline, 3 to 6 months. At the end of that deadline, when you reach that deadline, make sure you sit down and have an honest conversation with yourself. If you don't do this, it's the whole investment trap, right? The longer you stay with somebody, the longer you stay with the business, you have a relationship with them, it's just going to end up longer and longer, even if it's a bad one. I mean, I'm sure you know plenty of people who are in bad relationships who can't leave each other just because they've been with each other for a long time, all right? So do that. Now, when you do this, look at your results, not your feelings. Don't be afraid to leave, okay? Don't be afraid of confrontation, right? And the last bit of advice I'm gonna give you is before you even start the search on how to find a piano teacher, the most important thing you should do is sit down and start with yourself. All right, identify what things that you want, right? Have a list of questions. Here's some that I can give you, to be prepared when you meet the teacher, right? So you gotta ask yourself, what exactly do you want in a piano teacher, right? What's your price range? What is important for you? Do you want results? Do you not really care if they're like friendly or not? Because there's a lot of friendly piano teachers who aren't good at getting you results. There's a lot of mean piano teachers who are really good at getting you results. It's like, what do you want, right? What kind of music do you want to study, right? Because my philosophy is to teach whatever the student wants, whatever genre they're interested in. It's like I make them actually choose their own music. There's a lot of other piano teachers who only teach classical music. So if that's like something that you're not cool with, you better find out in the beginning. Also, do you want flexibility and scheduling? What about convenience? Are you okay with going to their place? Is it too far, right? Or do you want them to go to your place? And I'll just give you one word of advice. If you get a teacher that's commuting, someone who's going to your house, typically they're probably not going to be that good, okay? Because the only reason I did that in the beginning, commuting to other students, is because I couldn't get any business. So usually the good teachers you're going to have to go to them, not them come to you, okay? So, just really think about this stuff because you don't want to waste their time. It's not fair to everyone involved. One of the things that really makes me angry as a teacher, and I don't really even care, they're probably not listening to this video, but if they are watching this video, this is just straight up, this is how it is. So if, I've had instances in the past where because the commute for the student's parent, they were starting to get a little tired, bogged down with their schedule, and then it started to become more inconvenient, right? But I had such an amazing relationship with these kids that I was teaching, and they really loved, we just really liked piano lessons, had a lot of fun, teaching them. And it broke my heart that just because it was inconvenient for the parent, that they had to end this relationship between me and the student. And that stuff's heartbreaking. And then the parents don't even, and to me, it's like when you're a parent and you don't even think about that stuff, it's pretty traumatizing for the kid. I could see in their eyes just, I'm sad myself too, but I've been through some stuff. I'm a little older as an adult. Before a kid, it's a really meaningful relationship, and you're just cutting it off like that because you're getting tired of the commute. It's just not fair. And it was just to see just the sadness in their eyes is something that just bothers me every time that happens. That's something that I really hammer on when I have that initial consultation with, prospective students. So make sure that you get your stuff handled so you don't go through something like this, okay? Especially if you're a parent, right? I mean, if you're an adult, then it's more understandable, right? And three things to kind of think about before actually, you're going to want to make a scorecard off at the end because you actually have some more objective measures, right? And what you want to do is, just say something out of 1 to 5, 1 to 10, right? Create your own scorecard. Some things that are important to the little subjects that you can score it on could be, think about connection, expertise, professionalism. You can talk about convenience, their location, right? And people skills, things like that. Whatever your metrics are, and sit down and then tabulate a score, and have a minimum or a maximum, whatever score makes you happy. Because here's the thing, no one's gonna score a perfect 10 out of 10. And even for myself personally, I'm not good at sorry about dogs. I'm not really good at everything either. So you can tell I have dogs, right? For me too. So sometimes when I'm teaching students, they start barking uncontrollably. So I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do to really control that sometimes, right? So you're not going to score a perfect 10 out of 10 on everything. You're going to have to compromise, but make sure you compromise on the things that are most important to you, okay? And last thing I want to say, piano lessons is very important. Long-term commitment, long-term investment. This is your money that you're spending, so you better really think well about this stuff, okay? And last but not least, just a reminder, do your homework. If you do your homework well, and if you use these principles, these ideas that I suggest to you, I think you can come to a really informed, educated decision, all right? Anyways, that's for today. If you got something out of this, please subscribe, like, or share this video. Hope to see you guys next time. Happy practicing.